Hi there, everyone. This is Linda from North Central Texas. Just wanted to get on here and show you. This is the only reason I would have mosquitoes in my yard. These little pots I've got on my porch. Sometimes when I water them, the water will stand in the bottom of those little trays. I try to empty them. So other than that, I have no mosquitoes in my yard because I have no standing water. Like, all of these pots usually just kind of dry up from day to day, so there's never any water standing. And I wanted to show you too my tubs and totes and pots, how they're fixed so they don't have standing water. Like this big tub right here. I don't know if you can see that. Trying to show you the holes right here. There's a couple of inches at the bottom. That's the water reservoir. And you make that yourself. I mean, when you water your plants, the water goes all, drips down to the bottom. You'll have a couple of inches of water left in the bottom of your tub. So it keeps your plants watered for several days. Now, granted, some of them I do have on the bottom. Like this one right here. If you can see the holes right there. There's like at least 1.5 inches of water that can accumulate in the bottom of that. And then there's another one there. If you can see the holes, it's about 2 inches above the bottom. So it's going to contain water in the very bottom of that pot for several days. Like that one. And even my buckets. See. My buckets here. The holes are a couple of inches up. So you always have water in the bottom if you keep your plants watered. I was looking at my peppers. They're turning red or orange, so it won't be too long before I'll be able to pick them. But I've got about 8 of these compost tea buckets around the yard. So the days that they turn my water off and I have to water a plant, then I usually use my compost tea. Just dip a smaller bucket inside and water each tub. You can see how this sun does these poor plants in Texas. But see, they're still alive. They're still green. And as long as I can keep them alive and keep them watered good until the temperature drops off, which is getting ready to do that, then my plants are going to come back to life. They're going to start producing tons more of tomatoes. And see that one there? And you know they're surviving because where else do you have 100-degree temperature at 8 p.m. in the evening like we do here? Or that's the way it's been this summer. This has been an extremely hot summer. But see there, even after I picked my eggplant, I still got more coming on there. And you can see the holes. Well, see if I can show you the holes. The holes are a couple of inches up. There it is right there. So you've got a reservoir of water in the bottom. And you know what? I've got eggplant coming up right here with this tomato. And I had planted the eggplant in there first. And they never did come up. Again in there. There's a little eggplant right there. So I gave up on the eggplant and I went ahead and planted my tomatoes in there from seed. And now, with all the compost tea that I've been pouring in these pots with this drought, all those eggplants have come up. And there goes a pepper plant back there, growing right along with my tomato. And that's a pepper plant that I had planted before the tomato was even there. So, don't give up sometimes if your seeds don't come up right away, because eventually they might. But anyway, And there goes my green stalk tower. I love this thing because it's so easy to water. But you can see my melon vines are struggling, but they're still alive. And like I said, as soon as it cools off, these temperatures, if I keep it watered, you know, it's just growing like crazy. I got a moonflower coming up in there, so I had a stray seed. I got broccoli. Cucumber plants over here growing in my peppers and my tomatoes. And some plants now will not survive this heat. I planted potatoes in that. Potatoes couldn't handle this hot temperature, so they gave up. But you know what? That's going to be good compost right there. Because if there was any potatoes growing down in there, which I haven't dug down there to see, we had the old plants, the roots, and potatoes down in there with everything else. So I'm going to leave it there. I'll use it to build my totes when I get ready to plant some more totes. And see, that cucumber vine is just, it's loving it. I mean, as long as I keep it watered, it's going to grow. My beans. Those are foot-long beans. And, you know, they're not producing right now because it's so hot. But they're growing up this trellis. But anyway. See, it's the time of evening right now that they're kind of wilted down. But as soon as this temperature drops off in a couple of hours, they'll perk right back up. And see, I've got another eggplant that come up in there. I planted eggplant everywhere, and the seed just didn't want to come up at first, so I planted other stuff like tomatoes and other types of melons in my pots. And now all the eggplant's coming up. So, just goes to show you don't give up. They'll grow. Look like that little pepper plant right there with this tomato. The pepper plant seed didn't come up at first. So I planted this tomato and it started growing up the trellis here. I've got archways, so they grow up there. But after I started watering it all the time, especially with the compost tea, my pepper seed came up. So that's kind of neat. And there goes the avocado tree. Can you believe it? The poor leaves are burnt. But it came up from, that's a voluntary avocado tree. That came up from a avocado seed. So, I'm just here to tell you that compost tea just loves plants. And so look at there. There's another one of the eggplants that came up that I didn't think was going to come up. And it's putting out little eggplants already. And I just wish it would cool off so these tomatillos would produce some, because I've never grown them before. And I'm really anxious. It's trying to put some out. Like right there. And over here. Even in this heat, but it's struggling. But anyway. This just goes to show you, if I can grow any type of vegetables in this type of heat, when it's been getting up to sometimes 110 degrees during the day, and now it's dropped off to where it's going to be about 100, 102 every day for a while. And then I think by Tuesday we've got 36% chance of rain. So I'm praying we do get a good downpour before then, but you know, may have to wait till Tuesday. But see, those tomato plants, even in the shade with this kind of temperature, their leaves are going to dry up. But look at the top of the plant. That's still pretty healthy and green, and it's putting out blooms. That means it's trying to produce more tomatoes. See, the top of this one's the same way. That compost tea, I tell you what, you just can't beat it. And look at that. There's a couple little green tomatoes there. And it's 100 degrees at 8 p.m. this evening. Be 99 at 9 o'clock. So, And there's my little cucumber vine. It's just not going to give up. It's putting out blooms. So it's trying to produce more cucumbers. If I can just keep it watered good. Like I said, we've had a drought. They've had our water off about 80% of the time. And then other times when the water is on, we've had water restrictions. So I've not been able to keep the plants watered quite as much as I normally do. I've been relying basically on my compost tea, which, like I said, I've got 8 5-gallon buckets that's I've been relying on part of the time. I need to get me a couple more buckets so I can water when the water is off. But I think our water situation is about to be rectified, so I should be able to start watering a lot more to keep my things going. And there goes that mother of millions, or mother of many, as some people might call it. I messed up on my video the other day trying to show people the little baby down there. See it? And that's just from the seeds that drop from right there. See, there's 2 or 3 trying to come on there right now. But they'll come on every little point of those leaves and then drop off to the ground. And if you've got it in a big enough pot, then it'll, most of the time those seeds will go ahead and turn into more plants. Got aloe vera. And all these aloe vera are coming from my big aloe vera in the backyard. And it keeps producing babies, so I pull them out and try to put them in their own pot. And there goes another eggplant, and look at that. It's going to put out some more eggplant right there. See there? And I've been mostly watering this with my compost tea. Tomato plant, they're going up the archway. I put in the archways not only for flowers, but for my tomatoes, because a lot of times I get the indeterminate tomatoes, and they want to grow 15 and 20 feet tall when I keep them watered. And I couldn't go tall enough with sticks and other things to trellis them up. I didn't know what else to do. So I said, well, you know what? It'll look good to put a archway like this one. And I've got 4 or 5 of them in the yard in different places. So I plant not only flower vines that'll grow up the trellis like this one has. It's got a clematis and, I can't remember the name of the other one. But I've got clematis growing up both sides of it. And then I've also got the tomatoes planted in there. So I know tomato plants love clematis. They'll grow together and not cause a problem for either one. You see there? There you go right there. That's trying to produce some more tomatoes right in there. And this is my first pot of peppermint that I started. It's in one of those wine barrel planters. And I stuck some clematis in with it. But even the clematis, last year it was beautiful. This year it's just too hot. I don't think it would matter if you watered it 2 times a day in this heat. It just does not do as well. They're building a house across the street from me. They're not finished with it yet. And there's one of my other plants right there. As you can see, I've got nothing but rocks. My rock garden, it's suffering. It needs water bad. But I try to plant things in this garden that will come up every year. So if they die down, as soon as it rains and everything, it'll come back up. Like I got mums, that type of thing in here. Daylilies. Right there. And it was beautiful last year. I mean, everything came up. It was all blooming. This year, it's so hot, I can't even keep water in the bird baths. I mean, it just dries up. Just too hot on it. My rose bushes are suffering. I've got rose bushes around the yard. I even propagated some last year. Kept them in my little greenhouse over the winter. And lo and behold, they did grow roots. But you can see my rose bushes are trying to bloom. I'm just trying to keep them watered so till it cools off. And you can see there, peppermint don't like that blazing hot sun, because this one's out in the sun all day and all the top growth burn out. And it's trying to produce more at the bottom. But I'm not worried about it because it'll come back out as soon as this temperature cools off. And it'll be just as pretty as ever. Another rose bush. And there goes my aloe vera. As you can see, there's 2 or 3 and another little one coming up there. And this is the mother plant. I guess I need it in a bigger pot, but I can't move it if I put it in too big a pot. It gets too heavy on me. I had back and neck surgery back in '84 because I was injured on the job. So if I have a real heavy pot, it's got to be somewhere I know I'm not going to move it. Other than that, I have to make sure I can move the pot. And I don't want it to be very heavy. But there's some right there that I've started planting. See, I've even got a pepper plant growing in the top of it. It's struggling, but it'll come out as soon as this weather cools off. And that's a whole pot of moonflowers and peppermint. What a mixture. And I didn't even plant the moonflowers in there this year. I had one plant in there last year, and it must have dropped seeds because it came up. I said, oh well, it's coming up. I'm going to leave it there and let it do its thing. And I know you're hearing my AC unit running. I'm sorry about that. And out here, I had some leftover lumber and some an old door in my shed. So I had a do-it-yourself project. I built this wishing well, 2 years ago, and put it out here. Yeah, I did that myself. And I fixed a shelf down in there to where I could set pots in it to make a planter out of it. Moonflowers seem to like it there, but it's been too hot on them to bloom. Like I said, I only had 1 or 2 that bloomed, and that was before it got so hot. But here's one of the rose bushes I propagated last year, and I just planted it at the beginning of the summer. I've lost, I guess, 3 of them so far because it's been too hot on them, even though I've kept them watered. There's another one. It's still alive, but it's struggling, so I don't know. And I got a couple more up here. I got them along my property line. There's one there. And I was hesitant on planting them because I figured they were too small, but there's one, it's doing pretty well. And this one, I don't know, it's still alive, but it looks like something has got on it and eat the leaves off of it. But that's okay, it'll come back out as long as the plant itself stays alive. I got this plant growing here with it. And it looks like either a cucumber vine or a melon that came up from the compost that I put in the hole. So you see, sometimes if your compost, all your food scraps that you put down in your, not my fire pit here, and there's that feeding pole that the squirrel liked to climb until I put the tool on it. But something sure has been dipping out the seed in the ground. I've been filling that thing up about every day, and it's empty now. I need to put more in it. The birds are going crazy with it, I guess. But see, I do have a couple of the moonflowers planted over here. Most of them died because of the heat. But some of them were tough, so there's a little one right there and several over there. Got a sunflower that came up. I got a moonflower right there. But if I can keep a couple of them alive this year, I got a couple in pots back there, they'll come back up next year. And see, there's one there. So I'm not giving up on it because this is the first year or the second year that I've even tried to plant anything in there. I've been trying to build the soil up. I put in mulch to begin with, and then I put in potting soil. I bet I put in about 30 bags of potting soil, and then I put more mulch. And then this year, I put in wood chips, and then I put in about 30 more bags of potting mix. So man, this would have been pretty if we hadn't have gotten into this drought. But like I said, you know, not too many things will live out in this hot sun in this drought. Even my mums, even though I've been keeping them watered, you see how dry the dirt looks. Even though I've tried to water. Can't water it every day, but I guess I've watered it enough to keep some of it alive. And that's what matters. Because man, if all those seed that came up had lived, and this drought hadn't killed them, this thing would have been just crammed, packed, full of zinnias, moonflowers, marigolds, and sunflowers. But that's what happens. You can't plan the weather. You can't plan what your season's going to be like. Farmers go through that everywhere, so. And see, that's starting to come back up a little bit because I've got some water to it. Got a little okra on top. I've been picking a handful of okra now and then, and I just put them in a bowl and put them on the counter till I get enough to throw in a frying pan. And there's more moonflowers. And see, my bird bath, even though I put water in it yesterday, it's bone dry today. But anyway, I want to get away from that AC unit over there running like crazy. I've got another bird feeder over here. And I don't know. The squirrels should be happy. Look at all that corn and bird seed down on the ground. I don't know why they insist on trying to climb the pole to get to the bird feeder itself. I mean, they got plenty right there on the ground. Well, I guess I'm going to wrap this up. I had planted a little bush right there. It's looks like it's going to live. It's struggling a little bit, but looks okay. But anyway, I'm going to get back over here in the shade in this video. And these are hollyhocks. And when I planted them, I didn't read the instructions, or I maybe got it confused with another package of seed. But I didn't realize it grew as a vine until it started coming up and trying to go everywhere. So I had to put stakes in the pot, and look at that. It just grows up and up and up and up and everywhere. That's what I needed to the archways. So next year I'm going to put some of that, I think, to the archways and let it grow up the arch, like the tomatoes and some of my other stuff. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. And remember, if I can grow anything here in this area where I'm at, living on a rock hill, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you had enough space in the ground and could keep it watered, your stuff would grow like crazy. But here it's so rocky you can't dig a hole. So that's why everything is like a raised bed or it's in a pot. Because you're fighting a losing battle unless you can haul in 100 loads of topsoil and fill your yard up with it. You're going to have to plant in a pot. But anyway, like I said, I wanted to wrap this up. And don't forget, like my videos, share my videos, and please subscribe to my videos. It's free. When you subscribe to a channel, you're not joining it, you're just subscribing. That's just showing that you like my videos. And then later on, if you wanted to, you could join, and then you can, pay a couple of dollars a month or just pledge an amount. But right now, subscriptions are free. Subscriptions are always free. That just shows YouTube that you're supporting my channel. So again, like, share, subscribe to my channel. Stay cool if you live in Texas. Have a blessed day.